Hello, welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube. Myself, Mark Carlaw, and Mr. Riley Finch. On the back of a very busy day, mate. A very busy day for West Ham. A bit of a bizarre one. So it started off, the usual routine. You get up in the morning, wondering what the day's going to bring, and then all of a sudden, there's talk of Danny Ings coming into the club, and the club have submitted an offer. And before you know it, Sky Sports are reporting that he's signed for the club. Now, that's actually, they've jumped the gun a little bit there. He hasn't actually signed just yet, I believe. At this stage of this recording, the bid's been accepted, and I believe he's having a medical as we speak. So before we go into it, mate, it's quite eventful. What's your thoughts on this? Danny Ings coming to the club. Are you happy about that?
I don't know. I'm in two minds about it, Mark, because £13 million for a 30-year-old is quite a good deal for a Premier League proven player, I'd say. We paid about the same for Emerson, and he's going to be putting in less product than Danny Ings. But then I also think to myself, I don't see any goal scorer in this squad scoring goals at the moment, because our biggest problem is that we just don't create chances. It's not that Mikel Antonio is getting amazing service and missing week in, week out, or that Scamacca's getting amazing service and he's not a clinical finisher. So I just wonder, bringing Danny Ings in, unless we're going to try and change our style of play, how many goals is he really going to score? We can't expect him to just come in and magically score 10, 15 goals for the rest of the season to drag us out of the relegation spot. So I do hope that maybe we're going to have maybe a bit of a change of formation, hopefully maybe get two up top or something like that. Does it give any intent towards Sean Dyche coming, do you think? Do you think there's anything to read into that?
Well, that's it, isn't it? I think that's the. Obviously, we can't say that effectively because we don't really know, but it does feel slightly like that, doesn't it? Because it feels a little bit desperate. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the signing. I'm happy the fact, because one thing we have lacked for quite a long time is sort of like a good finisher, decent goal scorer. And the fact Danny Ings has been there and done it, he knows the league, he knows his opponents, he knows defenders. It's not as if he's going to need any typical David Moyes. He needs bedding in time. He can literally start against Saturday and get going, and as long as he's fit, of course, and get started. So that benefit I can see, and I like the fact he's got a very good track record of scoring goals. But like you say, that's not really the issue of West Ham this season. One, our defending's not been good enough, and two, it's the service hasn't been good enough. The general play, it's not as if, as you say, we're getting chance after chance of just not scoring. So a part of me is happy about it. A part of me is a little bit like, is it a bit desperate? I'm not sure. Or is there more to come? I do think there is more to come. I think West Ham are going to do a fair bit of business by the looks of it, which I think is needed. It's clearly what we've got at the moment isn't working. So what it does say is that at least the board are waking up to the fact that this is a desperate situation and trying to get this sorted out. On to your point about Dyche, yeah, I mean, I can't deny that there is a link there. Dyche is rumoured to be quite, liked at the club. I think he's got a good relationship with Karen Brady. Obviously, David Moyes is on very thin ice. But again, it's all speculation, isn't it? I mean, we don't really know at this stage. I certainly don't know anything behind the scenes from what X has been saying. I don't, he hasn't reported anything along those lines. I think we all know that he's kind of alluded to the fact there was two managers that would probably be more favourable, which would be Dyche and Benitez. If it was a pick of two, for me, it's Dyche. I think Benitez is pretty finished, really, especially after what he did at Everton. It would be a huge, huge gamble. Whereas I think with Dyche, I think you'd feel a bit more confident if he came in just to get enough points to get him fighting for it. And like you say, like he's played with Ings before. He did very well at Burnley. I think it's only fair to say, mate, that this signing only intensifies the link to Dyche, I think. And I think that's fair. I mean, would you say then this adds a bit of pressure on David Moyes and effectively the signing? Sort of, it makes everyone feel a little bit like Dyche is now waiting in the wings?
Well, I mean, I think David Moyes did want Danny Ings a few years ago when he, before he went to Villa. I think we were sniffing around Danny Ings, and I do think Moyes would have signed him if given the chance. So it's not like this isn't a David Moyes type player. Hard-working, English, local, Premier League proven. That sort of ticks a lot of David Moyes' boxes. And he's also not like, he doesn't strike me as someone who'd be arrogant. Like, he's not going to come in, and I think he would just settle in quite easily. So for me, I don't think it's too much to read into for the idea of Dyche coming in. There's a lot of media speculation about it at the moment. Also speculation as to whether the sanction of signing Danny Ings is going to allow Mikel Antonio to leave, who has been getting a lot of chip in the press recently and on social media. So let's say we get rid of Antonio, who's 32, I think, for 10 million, and then we get Danny Ings in, 30 years old, for 13 million. You're looking at spending 3 million on Danny Ings. I mean, I think that's quite good business, but are we putting resources in places we don't need, Mark? Do we need a centre back more? Do we need a full back more?
Well, this is it, isn't it? I mean, that's the other issue. You do look at it and think, defensively, it's been a real big problem this season. We've been far too easy to score against. We've seen it in recent weeks. Goals against Leeds are really poor. In particular, Brentford as well, throw-ins, really straightforward stuff, and we were getting cut apart. So I'm really concerned about that. And like you say, the fullbacks, left back situation is quite concerning. It does seem a little bit like West Ham of old, like let's just sign a striker and sort it all out. I don't know. The only thing I will say, I do like Danny Ings. Like you say, he's got a good personality. You can imagine he'll come in with a good big smile on his face and want to do well. So I'm really quite pleased about that, and I do like the fact that he's proven. It does give you a bit of comfort to know that he's not going to need any time to bed in the squad. You think he should fit in quite quickly. But yeah, there's a lot of work to be done at West Ham. Overall, I will say, if we're just talking about Danny Ings at the moment, I'm quite pleased. I think most clubs would be getting him in. I'm actually quite surprised Villa have let him go. That's my surprise. I think he was doing quite well for Villa. All I'm understanding is that Emery's got his targets and he wants to spend some money on certain players, and I believe that they just don't have the funds, or I think financial fair play issues are holding that back. So they had to make some sale. So I think that's the main reason behind it. But yeah, let's be honest, mate. He's a good striker, and bloody hell, we do need some reinforcements, and maybe as well it'll just help lift the mood. We're going into a game on Saturday where the mood's going to be pretty low, and you can imagine turning actually quite toxic if things don't go very well. So having a new player, someone of that sort of caliber, played for England and Liverpool and things like that, it does kind of hopefully lift the mood slightly and give everyone a bit of a buzz. Overall, it's hard to say, isn't it, where we sit with this, because you talk about Mikel Antonio. Personally, now I feel like he's going out the club. It feels that way. He's kind of been quite outspoken, and I'm actually quite disappointed with him, really, in some of the things he's saying. I get that he's a bit frustrated in that, but I just think there's better ways to go about it. I think, he's basically called out Moyes, isn't he? Effectively saying that the system he's trying isn't working and things like that. And just be honest, he's bloody right. But I think he used the term. I don't. How did he say it? He said about being a West Ham player and said, that's something I need to respect for now, or I need to acknowledge that for now, or something like that. He kind of worded it that way. I thought that's pretty poor from being a club that you've been at since 2000, 7 years, and you've got a club record goal scorer in the Premier League. Like it's sort of like it's a sideline. Well, I've got to be a bit careful. I still play for West Ham. I thought, well, I don't know. Personally, I just found it a little bit. He's clearly frustrated and wants to leave the club. The problem is, mate, where do we sell him to? Do you sell him to a relegation rival and take the risk that he suddenly, becomes rejuvenated and starts banging goals in for him, and it could send us down? That's the gamble. Would you keep him at the club just for the sake of it, or would you like to ship him out?
Well, personally, I think Southampton and Bournemouth are going to go down. So as long as we don't send it to one of those clubs, I think we'll be okay. But realistically, it probably comes between us, Everton, Wolves, and Leeds as to who's going to go down. If we allowed him to go to Wolves, I don't think he'd scored too many goals at Wolves. They've got a lot of. They've got Jimenez, Cunha, Costa. I don't know why he'd even want to go there, because he's probably there's probably less of a pecking order there, more of a pecking order there than there is at West Ham. So yeah, it'd be a weird one. I think he phrased it as, "I'm at West Ham right now," but obviously that can change. But for right now, I'm at West Ham.
So, mate, what are we saying then? Overall, are we saying that Danny Ings, good signing? You pleased with it overall?
Yeah, I'd say I'm very pleased with it. I'm actually surprised that Villa, like you said, were sanctioned the signing. I think they've only got Watkins up top, and that's it. He's a proven Premier League goal scorer. We know that if he's going to get chucked in at the deep end, he's going to score goals. The most important thing for us is, can we just create those chances for him? But with Scamacca out, it's a no-brainer, really, and it might just get Antonio out of the club, where he might be a little bit happier too.
I agree, mate. I absolutely agree. Here we go, mate. So on to Saturday, Danny Ings, hat-trick. It's got to happen, surely.